This crime story is based on a true story and is one of the most disturbing cases I've ever investigated. A family torn apart, not by strangers, but by their own daughter. This is the story of Penelope Kim and the night that shattered her family in the quiet suburban streets of Brighton, California. Michael and Hannah Kim came to the U.S. as young immigrants, working relentlessly to build a life from nothing. They saved every dollar, worked long hours, and raised their 2 children, Penelope and Leo, with the hope of giving them everything they never had. By the early 2000s, they had achieved the American dream, a beautiful home, luxury cars, and a future full of promise. But what looked like a perfect family on the outside was hiding a dark secret no one could have predicted. Penelope Kim was the eldest daughter, bright, soft-spoken, and obedient, or so it seemed. Behind the smiles, Penelope was drowning under immense pressure. Her parents' strict rules left no room for mistakes, no freedom, and no chance to live life her way. When she failed to live up to their expectations, she began to lie. First small lies, then bigger ones. Fake report cards, forged college acceptance letters, and an invented job at a prestigious hospital. Years passed, and her parents never knew their daughter was building an entire life out of fabrications. In high school, Penelope fell in love with a classmate named Julian Thorne, a connection her parents never approved of. They forbade her from dating, demanding she focus only on school and work. But Penelope clung to Julian in secret, seeing him behind their backs, sneaking out and deepening her web of deceit. Eventually, her parents uncovered the truth. They found out she wasn't in college, wasn't working at the hospital, and was living a double life. The discovery shattered their trust. They banned her from seeing him again, stripped away her freedoms, and kept her under constant watch. Penelope felt trapped, a prisoner in her own home. By her early 20s, Penelope was living a total lie. To her parents, she was still the perfect daughter. In reality, she was sneaking out, lying about every aspect of her life, and secretly reunited with Julian. The lies piled up until she saw only one way out. In hushed conversations, she spoke to friends about her parents as obstacles she wished could disappear. With Julian's help, she reached out to men who were willing to kill. For a price. What started as whispered fantasies soon turned into a chilling plan for murder. November 8th, 2020. Penelope left the front door unlocked that night. 3 masked men stormed inside while she waited upstairs. Her parents, Michael and Hannah, were dragged from their bedrooms, terrified and confused. Penelope was tied loosely to a banister, her wrists bound just enough to look like a victim, but the killers didn't touch her. Instead, they forced her parents into the basement. Shots echoed through the house. Hannah Kim was executed. Michael Kim was left bleeding but clinging to life. Upstairs, Penelope dialed 911. Breathless, claiming she had been tied up and couldn't stop the intruders. Her voice was laced with panic, but something didn't add up. How could she call with her hands bound? And why had the killers spared her completely, while her parents were shot execution style? 3 days later, Michael Kim awoke from a coma. Despite his injuries, he remembered everything. He recalled seeing his daughter walking freely with the attackers, speaking to them like friends, not like a hostage. His testimony cracked the case wide open. Detectives brought Penelope in for questioning. For 9 long hours, they pressed her, dismantling her story piece by piece. At first, she insisted she was an innocent victim. Eventually, under pressure, she broke. She admitted she had been involved in the plan, but twisted the story, claiming she had hired the men to kill her, not her parents. Investigators didn't believe it. The evidence, her father's testimony, and her behavior all pointed to one truth. Penelope Kim had orchestrated her own parents' murder. The trial in 2022 lasted 10 months, with more than 50 witnesses called to testify. The courtroom listened as prosecutors laid out every lie, every detail of the plot, and every step Penelope took to erase her parents. In the end, Penelope and her accomplices were all found guilty of first-degree murder and attempted murder. She was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. Today, Michael Kim lives with permanent injuries, but his deepest wound cannot be seen. He lost his wife to violence and his daughter to betrayal. He has cut all ties with Penelope, requesting never to see her again. Penelope Kim will be nearly 50 before she is eligible for parole if she is ever granted freedom. For investigators, this case is unforgettable, not just because of the lies, the planning, or the brutality, but because of what it reveals. That sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from the outside world. Sometimes the most devastating betrayal comes from within the family home.